request of the United States Office of Civil Defense, at 3:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, NORAD detected a long-range nuclear missile launch in North Korea. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. All residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
You say that for practical purposes, we leveled every major city in North Korea so that they all looked like Berlin at the close of World War II. Well, why, am I alone in never having known this?
No, it's probably one of the worst episodes of unrestrained American violence against another people. But it's certainly the one that the fewest Americans know about. But when you go to North Korea, it was the first thing my guides brought up with me. For this book, did some research on how incendiary bombing developed during World War II. First the Germans did it, and then everybody did it, but especially the British and Americans. And they found out, after a lot of trial and error, that it was a lot easier to burn down a city than it was to use conventional bombs on a factory.
마땅 자기의 운명으로 우리 인종에게 살아가고 범죄 관련자를 처벌.
We are talking about acts against civilian populations.
The United States is the country that first produced nuclear weapons and the only country that actually used it, massacring hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. The very reason the DPRK had to possess nuclear weapons is because of the US, and it had to strengthen and develop its nuclear force onto the current level to cope with the US. The US hostile policy and nuclear threats have continued over 70 years, and these have led the situation on the Korean Peninsula to a touch-and-go point. Our national nuclear force is to all intents and purposes a war deterrent for putting an end to nuclear threat of the US and for preventing its military invasion. And our ultimate goal is to establish the balance of power with the US.
This was the second successful intercontinental ballistic missile test within the past month, and it flew longer and farther than any previous missile. Pentagon intelligence analysts have been surprised by the fast technological advances made by North Korea's weapons scientists. Analysts do believe that the missile launched today did have the range to hit Los Angeles, Chicago, or even New York.
He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
What most Americans don't realize is that the thing about the fire and fury that North Korea would never witness as the world has witnessed before, that is actually completely historically inaccurate. North Korea did experience fire and fury. The US had threatened to use nuclear weapons, even though they used it against Japan in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But they had Truman threatened to use it during the Korean War. But as many historians who covered that war show that it was so badly carpet bombed, 80% of North Korean cities were completely destroyed, that North Korea did experience it, and their pursuit of a nuclear weapon has very much, because of that experience, of that lived experience. I think we have to understand where the North Koreans are coming from, and we have to recognize that they are not maniacs, they are not madmen.
life, and a global society must strive to abolish them forever. This program does not support their possession by any country. But as crucial negotiations proceed, it is imperative the U.S. side fully understands how a horrific and still unrecognized war crime committed against a massive number of civilian men, women, and children in North Korea has driven its push to develop such weapons. Only a clear view of this history and larger context will bring the recognition that the U.S. must take real action to truly remove the threat that has loomed for so long. And the U.S. must be willing to look at its own immoral possession of nuclear weapons.
Video. John Sparks of Independent Television.
All right, we'll take news brief next. You ready, David? 3, 2.
An ABC News Brief.
The news media has a vital role to play. In this crisis that endangers all humanity, there is a profound responsibility to push beyond the headlines and provide the essential historical context and deeper understanding that can prevent a cataclysmic nuclear holocaust.